Get the dependability you want and the affordability you deserve in a new Ford Escort from your Northwest Ford store.
The new Star Wars movie on the next Entertainment Tonight.
This is the CBS Evening News. With Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. America's third ever impeach the president inquiry in Congress lasted all day and late into the evening. The venue, the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee. The only witness, Special Prosecutor Kenneth Starr. He was sworn in under oath in the witness chair and under fire. Starr delivered a 2-hour-plus summation of what he sees as a pattern of behavior that amounts to alleged impeachable offenses. Tonight, President Clinton's lawyers had their first chance to cross-examine Starr, but with time and content restrictions. It was an extraordinary mix of lofty constitutional law and muddy mosh pit politics. CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Bob Schieffer begins our coverage. Bob?
Well, Dan, it was as partisan as it was historic, and within seconds, you could see how deeply divided this committee was. To the Republican chairman, it was all about the law being the same for everyone.
Does the law apply to some people with force and ferocity while the powerful are immune? Do we have one set of laws for the officers and another for the enlisted?
Democrats launched a blistering attack even before Starr began.
The idea of a federally paid sex policeman spending millions of dollars to trap an unfaithful spouse would have been unthinkable prior to the Starr investigation.
Conyers questioned not only Starr's conclusions, but his motives.
Is it just coincidental that Mr. Starr, until recently, drew $1 million a year salary from his law firm that represents the tobacco industry, which is fighting President Clinton's effort to deter teen smoking?
Starr's thesis was that this was not a case about sex. It was, he said, about perjury and the misuse of presidential power to thwart a lawsuit and a criminal investigation.
The evidence suggests that the president repeatedly used the machinery of government and the powers of his high office to conceal his relationship, to conceal the relationship from the American people, from the judicial process in the Jones case, and from the grand jury.
To the American people, to his cabinet, to the grand jury, and in a deposition given in the Paula Jones lawsuit, Starr said the president did not tell the truth.
He testified that he could not recall being alone with Ms. Lewinsky. That was untrue. He testified that he could not recall ever being in the Oval Office hallway with Ms. Lewinsky except perhaps when she was delivering pizza. That was untrue. He testified that he could not recall gifts exchanged between Ms. Lewinsky and him. That was untrue. The president testified that he did not know whether Ms. Lewinsky had been served a subpoena at the time he last saw her in December 1997. That was untrue. When his attorney read Ms. Lewinsky's affidavit denying a sexual relationship, the president stated that the affidavit was absolutely true. That was untrue.
Starr had some good news for the president. He said so far he's found no criminal intent on the president's part during his long investigation into Whitewater, the Arkansas land deal. Nor, he said, was there presidential wrongdoing in the gathering of FBI files on political opponents that became known as Filegate, or in the firing of White House employees, an incident which became known as Travelgate. Yet this was a day when committee Democrats were suspicious even of good news. If the president had been cleared in those cases, they said, then Starr should have announced it before the elections. Dan?
Bob, any decision makers there on Capitol Hill believe Starr changed minds on the committee today?
No, I don't think anybody thinks that, Dan, but then Starr didn't think he could do that. He was playing to the television audience just as the Democrats were doing.
Bob Schieffer on Capitol Hill. For the latest now about the reaction and strategy tonight in the president's camp, CBS News White House correspondent Scott Pelley's been wearing out shoe leather and making telephone calls. Scott, what have you found out?
Dan, for the White House and for Democrats today, this was a day to put Ken Starr on trial and discuss as little as possible the charges facing the president. No one here at the White House was willing to defend the president's actions today. But just listen to what the president's chief lawyer said after Ken Starr laid out his case of perjury and obstruction of justice.
There was virtually nothing new in the proceeding today. There was nothing new in the unfairness of the process. as we saw on the party line vote to limit the president's counsel to only 30 minutes in his questions of Mr. Starr. The process, unfortunately, remains bitterly partisan and, in our view, profoundly unfair to the president.
Only rarely did Democrats venture into the evidence against Mr. Clinton. Instead, they accused Starr of conflicts of interest, abusing the rights of Monica Lewinsky, and leaking grand jury evidence.
I think there's a severe, important public interest in dealing with this leak question. It goes to the credibility of a lot of what you've done.
The lead Democratic attorney asked whether the allegations against Starr were enough to derail impeachment.
Doesn't that undermine the substantiality and credibility of the evidence on something as weighty as impeaching a president of the United States?
Mr. Lowell, nothing that you have said, and with all respect, what you have done is go into characterizations as opposed to deal with facts. The facts are as we have found them to be, and not one of your questions suggests that the president was not involved in serious offenses that now is your responsibility to evaluate.
Tonight, the president's lawyer, David Kendall, will have his first opportunity to question Starr. The committee chairman has warned Kendall not to try to put Starr on trial. But sources familiar with the president's defense have told CBS News that Kendall will question Starr's motives and methods. Dan?
Scott Pelley at the White House. For his part, President Clinton is in Japan on a scheduled trip to deal with Asia's economic troubles. But that doesn't mean he was tuned out to events in Washington today, as CBS's Bill Plant tells us now from Tokyo. Bill?
Dan, the president did actually see a bit of the news coverage of the hearings. He told a staff member who came in to brief him this morning that he'd seen maybe 10 seconds while watching television, but immediately turned his attention away. The staff member began his briefing by describing what had happened in the hearings overnight Tokyo time. The president, after a couple of minutes of this, cut him off and said, "I want to work on today's speech." So the White House spin is that the really good news is that the president and first lady were exonerated on some of the original charges. And that said, they just want to move on around here, too. So we blow one day, said one senior official, and then we just move on. Well, we'll see. Dan?
Bill Plant live in our Tokyo Bureau. And earlier today, the subject of the president's trouble back home came up in a Japanese town meeting broadcast. A mother of two from Osaka asked Mr. Clinton about how he had apologized to the First Lady in Chelsea.
Did they really forgive you, Mr. President?
Well, I did it in a direct and straightforward manner, and I believe they did, yes. But that's really a question you could ask them better than me.
We'll have more about the impeachment hearings, including analysis, public reaction, and where it goes from here when the CBS Evening News continues. Also tonight, why it's so hard to get rid of Saddam. Revelations about that Air Force pilot involved in a mysterious crash, and a test today for something new under the sun.
The truck. The award. The new Chevy Silverado, the Motor Trend Truck of the Year. It's bigger, it's more powerful. It's the truck from Chevrolet.
Sorry I'm late. I was at my doctor and... Oh, did you ask her about the things you've been reading about menopause? I did. She said...
It's important to consider menopause and the consequences of its associated estrogen loss.
You mean like hot flashes? Hot flashes and night sweats, but other things too, like vaginal dryness. It can interfere with intimacy.
And osteoporosis. I know that menopause increases our risk of fractures.
Dr. Hartman also said,
studies show that menopause contributes to heart disease in women. Additional ongoing studies are investigating the connection between menopause and Alzheimer's disease, colon cancer, blindness, and tooth loss.
I had no idea. My doctor and I decided to stick with the program we've agreed on for years. I should speak to my doctor.
When considering menopause, consider the entire body of evidence. Speak to your doctor about what you can do to help protect your health during and after menopause.
Back now with our special CBS Evening News coverage of the presidential impeachment hearings. Whether you like them or not, they are historic, So for context and perspective and some indication of where they're going from here, we call in two of Washington's most experienced journalists, CBS News correspondent Phil Jones and CBS News consultant Gloria Borger. Gloria, any surprises today in Ken Starr's prepared testimony?
Well, yes, Dan, there was to me. You know, there's always been a lot of speculation about whether this independent counsel would in fact bring criminal charges against Bill Clinton. And today, for the first time, we heard Ken Starr explicitly state that if he decided to indict Bill Clinton, the Constitution would in fact allow him to do so. So now I think there's a very real possibility that Bill Clinton could face criminal charges after he leaves office.
Phil Jones, what's your read on the committee's reaction to Starr?
Well, Dan, I don't think Kenneth Starr gave the members of the committee anything that would cause them to change their minds one way or the other. The Democrats are going to vote against impeachment. The Republicans on the committee think it should go to the full House. But remember, the members of this committee are far more partisan and less willing to compromise than the full House. So when this reaches the full House, there could be some dealing on something well short of impeachment.
Gloria Borger, if the Judiciary Committee, as expected, sends an article or articles of impeachment to the full House, what happens next?
Well, first of all, everybody's talking about the role of the new House Speaker, Bob Livingston. He's already stated on the record that he wants this matter to go away before he assumes his new role in January. And he also knows that he's got a lot of moderate Republicans out there who have already stated on the record that they are against impeachment and do not want this to go to the Senate for trial.
Gloria Borger and Phil Jones in Washington, thanks. What about the American public's view? Here's what our CBS News poll found as the impeachment inquiry got underway. President Clinton's job approval rating has gone up again. Now it's at 67%. And 56% in our survey say congressional Republicans went ahead with the impeachment inquiry mostly to damage the Clintons and the Democrats. You hardly need a pollster anymore to know that many Americans would prefer to forget the whole impeachment issue. Today's hearings did little, if anything, to change that, as CBS's Bob McNamara reports from the heart of Texas.
The hearings and Ken Starr's testimony seemed little more than a footnote on the Fort Worth Star-Telegram's front page.
In Texas, you know, when you walk around, sometimes you get stuff on your boots. Ken Starr would be the stuff on the boots.
WBAB and Mark Davis.
It is the day the impeachment hearings begin. Thursday.
By now, conservative radio talker Mark Davis has heard it all.
I've never liked Clinton. I've never liked what he stood for.
And said it all.
Because when the day is done, Bill Clinton's going to look rotten.
But he thinks his audience suffers political fatigue.
They're just tired. They're tired and they're bored and they want the story to go away.
Working people here have grown weary and wary of Washington's ways.
Ken Starr, I think he's overdone it. I think Ken Starr's in it for Ken Starr.
I think it should just be swept under the rug and just go on about our business and try to run the government.
Virtually everyone agrees.
Few here believe Bill Clinton is an innocent.
What he did was wrong, but I don't think it's grounds for impeachment.
But piling on was how some saw Starr's testimony against the president.
If he already pulled the guy's teeth out, stop cutting his arms. That's what I really believe. Enough is enough.
1,300 miles west of the Washington Beltway, the approaching holidays seem more on the mind of Fort Worth than anything else. And besides that, right now, this city has a circus of its own.
Ladies and gentlemen.
But even here, there seems no escape from the political symbolism of the times, or the spin doctors in a league of their own. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Fort Worth.
Coming up here on CBS, the latest and maybe last word on why an Air Force pilot flew into a mountain and killed himself.
Some things are just better in St. John's Bay, like our combed cotton turtlenecks for him and her, with a heavier knit and a more generous cut. Just $10.50 only at JCPenney.
Just doesn't get any better. Yeah.
JCPenney.
When I feel fresh, I'm always looking forward.
Exploring, discovering.
With Always panty liners, that freshness leaves you free to be and do what you choose.
Being spontaneous, taking chances.
Only Always odor-absorbing panty liners have a unique core and fresh weave cover that work together to help keep moisture and odor away from you. For that always fresh feeling every day.
Getting close, being myself.
All Days panty liners from Always. Feeling fresh is being free.
I got a real whopper of a headache right now.
Tough pain needs fast relief. The fast relief of Motrin IB gel caps. Powerful, concentrated, half the size of Advil liquid gels.
My headache is history.
For fast relief, it's Motrin IB, spoken here.
Okay, and stretch, and bend, and stretch.
Unlike ordinary pickles, Clausen just won't bend.
Everybody, stretch, and bend.
When it comes to taste, we make them cold and keep them cold. So enjoy the cold snap of Clausen.
Right now, you can get a complete pair of great-looking glasses for only $99 at LensCrafters in your choice of hundreds of the latest frame styles.
LensCrafters $99 complete pair sale.
This is a great offer. People should definitely not miss this.
Hurry, offer ends Saturday, November 21st.
Could your child's toy cause cancer? Consumer groups expose a potentially fatal chemical in toys. That story in 15 minutes on KOIN 6 News at 6.
United Nations inspectors in Iraq were back in the field today, still reporting no problems, but with a big U.S. military force standing by in case Saddam Hussein breaks his promise to cooperate. Last weekend, when President Clinton called off the attack on Iraq, he also renewed a call for the Iraqi people to overthrow Saddam. From Baghdad, CBS's Alan Pizzey reports that's still a lot easier said than done.
An anti-sanctions demonstration at a Baghdad hospital. Anywhere else in the world, this anger would probably be directed at the government. In Iraq, anger, like everything else, is controlled by the government. This is just one example of the difficulties facing any scheme to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Government-controlled newspapers heap scorn on Washington's efforts to overthrow Saddam. They mention the plots freely because no one here would dare act on them now. It's been tried before. In 1991, as the dust of Desert Storm settled, the Shiites of southern Iraq and the Kurds of the north took up the call by U.S. President George Bush to overthrow Saddam. Both revolts were smashed brutally while America watched. Hundreds of thousands of Kurds were driven into Turkey and Iran. In 1996, a CIA operation costing millions of dollars to back Iraqi opposition groups in northern Iraq was crushed when Saddam sent troops and armor into the U.S.-declared safe haven. Hundreds of Iraqis who worked for it were killed or forced into exile, and Saddam's troops are still there. Now, $100 million has been earmarked to try yet again. Part of the scheme includes Radio Free Iraq, based in the Czech Republic, to broadcast anti-Saddam information into Iraq. Just tuning in here is dangerous, so there is no way to know how many people hear Radio Free Iraq or believe it. Iraqi law defines anyone who works with or supports foreigners deemed to be acting against the state as a traitor. And as every Iraqi knows, the offense carries only one penalty: death. Alan Pizzey, CBS News, Baghdad.
More than a year and a half after U.S. Air Force Captain Craig Button turned a training flight into a suicide mission in the Rockies, no one knows for sure why he did it. A Pentagon investigation turned up no evidence to support theories of sexual or financial problems or a political agenda. CBS's David Martin has continued digging into this and now reports a detailed psychological study indicates religion may have played a role.
The flight, which ended on the side of a Colorado mountain, was to have been Craig Button's first live bombing run. As the Air Force report puts it, for Button, the art of flying was about to become the science of war. He told one friend he was learning to kill people, and his performance in training slacked off. Just days before the flight, the report says Button was visited by his father and mother, a devout Jehovah's Witness, who disapproved of his dropping bombs. Investigators later found a Jehovah's Witness publication next to the pilot's bed. It described the biblical story of Abraham being directed by God to sacrifice his son as a burnt offering upon a mountain, a passage which, according to his roommate, Button found very troubling. The night before the flight, Button got a mysterious phone call. His roommate told investigators he thought it was Button's mother and that the call upset him. The Air Force report includes a psychological profile which said whatever was bothering Button boiled to the surface immediately before he was going to drop live bombs for the first time. Soon after he took off from his base in Arizona, Button broke away from formation and flew toward the Colorado mountains, where, according to the profile, he intended to die or be rescued by the divine intervention of God at the last possible moment. Button's plane carried 4 500-pound bombs which have never been found. What he did with those bombs his mother disapproved of may never be known. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Straight ahead here on CBS, the latest about NASA and the new high-tech plane that can soar on sun power to the edge of space.
A friendly reminder from Grand Cinnamon Rolls.
For an enjoyable weekend, avoid things like message pads. And of course, alarm clocks. Instead, grab a big Grand Cinnamon Roll.
What better way to unwind after a long week than by enjoying a hot, fresh Grand Cinnamon Roll, now with richer, more homemade taste. They'll make you forget that Monday is...
Well, let's just forget about Monday. They're not just big, they're grands.
When you serve French's traditional green bean casserole, made with the tasty, crispy crunch of French's French fried onions, it'll disappear as quickly as the holidays.
You've got French's.
I'd like to show you something you're really going to like. 1010-9000. The only number you need to get directory assistance anywhere in America. It's the easy way to find a phone number. You don't need to know the area code. Who can keep track of them? Just dial 1010-9000, tell the operator whose number you want and where they live. That's it. They find you the number, even offer to dial it for you with no connection charge. That's pretty simple, huh? I thought you'd like it. 1010-9000, directory assistance for everyone in America.
No more excuses. Zyban is here. Prescription medicine, only available from your doctor. Ask your doctor about Zyban or call 1-888-650-PILL to find out more. Zyban. Now you have another choice.
Great meal.
Uh-oh, gas pressure. What now? What else? Gas X, with the most powerful medicine for fast relief. Nothing works faster.
Hey, want to go for ice cream?
Gas X, the power to fight gas fast.
1 3-layer wedding cake, done.
3? Should be 6. Bayer can relieve arthritis inflammation. Tylenol can't. And taken regularly, Bayer can help save your life.
Ta-da!
Ask your doctor. Bayer, powerful pain relief and so much more. The senior class president accused.
They gave us alcohol. We had sex.
I was targeted.
Cry rape. 48 hours tonight.
On a California runway today, a test of aerospace technology at the edge of the envelope. This is a high-tech spin on a tried-and-true old saw. Slow and steady wins the race. CBS's John Blackstone first broke this story, and he now takes you along for the ride to see NASA's mix of the right stuff and the ultra-light stuff soaring on sun power.
Above the California desert this morning, an unusual airplane seemed to raise its wingtips in a smile. It's called Centurion, and it sauntered along at just 24 miles an hour. Its 14 engines producing less power than a household appliance.
Think about a blow dryer that you use to blow dry your hair. That's about 1 kilowatt. So essentially, to take off here, we need about the power of, between 6 and 8 blow dryers.
It's amazing. This is the public debut of the solar-powered airplane NASA hopes will one day fly high enough to take over jobs now done by satellites. There's no pilot. The plane operates by remote control. It seems delicate, admits its designer, Ray Morgan.
It is fragile on the ground. You could put your fist through any part of it. But in the air, it's actually much more robust. It's designed to fly.
In August, a smaller version called Pathfinder climbed to more than 80,000 feet. But getting higher requires a bigger plane. The Centurion's wing stretches 206 feet. That's greater than the wingspan of a 747. The numbers are impressive, but to truly appreciate the Centurion's size, you've got to stand beside it. Because it runs on solar power, Centurion could fly for months at a time, watching weather, for example, more effectively than a satellite.
We can take this kind of an airplane, park it over the hurricane development that's taking place in the Atlantic, and then follow the hurricane as it approaches the Gulf of Mexico, for example.
Though it lacks the power of a rocket, those who built Centurion believe it still has the right stuff. John Blackstone, CBS News, Edwards Air Force Base, California.
Sammy Sosa, the Chicago Cubs, capped an amazing season today by winning the National League's Most Valuable Player award. With 66 home runs, Sosa finished second to Mark McGwire's 70 in the record-breaking home run derby, but Sosa had a higher batting average, drove in more runs, his team did better, so he won the MVP by a landslide, 30 out of 32 first-place votes from baseball writers.
Recently, we flew Carrie Eisenhandler and her family to Johns Hopkins for surgery to correct a pre-existing heart condition. We flew Eric Gonzalez to the Cleveland Clinic because of their renowned expertise in treating Crohn's disease. Hopefully, these stories fly in the face of the belief that healthcare isn't what it used to be. We're Aetna U.S. Healthcare, raising the quality of healthcare in America.
Only Afrin has special formulas for nasal congestion,
Allergy congestion. Children's congestion.
and now for immediate relief of severe congestion.
Afrin. Breakthroughs in breathing.
La 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 la.
Unlike ordinary pickles, Clausen just won't bend
La la.
when it comes to taste. We make them cold and keep them cold. So enjoy the cold snap of Clausen.
Here are two computers that are quote-unquote perfect for you. The one on your left was built 2 months ago. The one on your right hasn't been built yet. Gateway wants to speak with you first. How fast do you want to go? Movie buff? How many kids? Any future Rembrandts? Now, which one is quote-unquote perfect for you? The perfect computer can be anything you want it to be, starting at $999 all the way up to your dream system. Call 1-800-GATEWAY and get more out of the box.
There's an athlete amongst us, disguised as a mother and a neighbor. And when most of us are still sleeping, she's running. She also takes the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and folic acid in Women's Ultra Mega Multivitamins, made by General Nutrition Centers. Tomorrow, she'll get up and run some more. Women's Ultra Mega Multivitamins, made exclusively by GNC. Live strong, live well.
Now we update and put in context for you tonight's top story in tomorrow morning's headlines out of the House Judiciary Committee's Impeach the President inquiry. Special Prosecutor Ken Starr delivers a 2-hour-plus verbal catalog of what he sees as impeachable offenses by President Clinton growing out of the Lewinsky affair. Democrats call the Republican-led committee unfair. For one thing, they put time and subject limits on the president's lawyer in cross-examining Starr. Looking ahead, Chairman Henry Hyde summons members to a politically charged private meeting tonight to issue new subpoenas for more witnesses and testimony, possibly to include some of the president's closest aides. Keep in mind, the impeachment process has a long way to go. Should, as expected, the Judiciary Committee vote to recommend impeachment articles, the full Republican-led House must vote to approve by a simple majority. If so, a trial is then held by the Senate where 2/3 would have to vote for conviction to remove the president from office. All told, a slow, deliberative, and if handled right, serious process, just as the framers of the U.S. Constitution always meant it to be. That's part of our history and part of our world tonight. I'll be back later here on CBS with an especially interesting 48 hours. Bill Lagatuda has a preview for you.
The best and brightest kids in town caught in a sex scandal.
They gave us alcohol and we had sex.
But was it rape?
I was targeted by these girls.
Is anybody innocent? Cry rape. Later on 48 Hours.
Later is 10 o'clock, 9 Central Time here on the CBS television network. Now for the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. I'll see you again soon on 48 Hours.
With much more room. Get the size and security of a Chevy Suburban now. We're talking selection and value at your Chevrolet dealers Northwest.
It's an absolutely outstanding rig, and it takes me any place I need to go.
We're talking Chevrolet.